I work at a small gas station out in the backwoods of Tennessee. It sits on an old two-lane stretch of road that hardly anyone uses anymore. Back in the day, before they built the new freeway about 10 years ago, this road was busy. Restaurants, a couple of motels, a few shops. Now, almost every business here is gone. The buildings just sitting there, slowly rotting away. Most are boarded up, but a few have broken windows or busted doors, and every so often you'll see some of the local junkies wander in and claim a place for a while. When it gets dark, the whole stretch feels dead. Last night, I clocked in at 8 p.m. The parking lot was empty, and inside it was so quiet I could hear the buzz of the ceiling lights over everything else. The only movement was the faint ripple of shadows in the cooler glass when the compressor kicked on. That's how I knew it was going to be a slow night. This road doesn't get many travelers after sunset unless they're lost, desperate for gas, or looking for a bathroom. I've been working here for about a year now. I'm 18, and the night shift has its perks. I can play music, watch videos, scroll my phone, whatever. The only catch is when something happens. It's just me, no backup. Around 11 p.m., I was leaning on the counter, half watching some YouTube video, when I remembered the chip rack was almost empty, which for some reason are the most popular here. I'd put it off all evening because the extra stock isn't in the back room like you'd expect. It's in the basement. I've always hated that basement. The stairs are steep and narrow. The air down there smells like mildew, and the single light bulb over the main floor always seems one flicker away from burning out. The corners are dark no matter what you do, and sound echoes in this weird way that makes it hard to tell where anything's coming from. I never spend more time down there than I have to. Still, I grabbed the basement key, unlocked the heavy wooden door, and started down. The air was noticeably cooler halfway down the steps, and the smell hit me. Dust, cardboard, something damp. The light was already on, casting a pale yellow glow over the shelves and the stacked boxes. I was maybe 5 steps from the bottom when I heard something. First a sharp metallic clink, like something small hitting the concrete. Then the sound of footsteps. At first I froze, trying to figure out if it was just something shifting on the shelves. But the steps kept coming, evenly spaced, moving toward me from the far end of the room. That was all I needed. I spun around and took the stairs 2 at a time, slammed the door shut, locked it, and stepped back. My heart pounding so hard it hurt. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped the keys. I went straight for the counter and pulled up the security cameras on the store computer. There's one that points down into the basement from the top of the stairs. When the feed loaded, I felt my stomach twist. There was a man standing dead center in the frame. He was staring directly up at the camera, smiling. Not a normal smile. His eyes were wide, his lips pulled too far back. He didn't look like the usual crowd that drifts through the abandoned buildings. No beard, no ragged layers of clothes. He was clean-shaven, wearing jeans and a light blue button-up. If he'd walked in through the front door, I would have just rung him up without thinking twice. But seeing him down there, in that place, looking right into the lens, it felt wrong in a way I can't explain. I grabbed the phone and called my boss. At first he sounded irritated, but the longer I talked, the quieter he got. Then he said he'd be there in 15 minutes. I asked if I should call the police. He told me no, not yet. Just lock the front door and make sure the guy didn't leave. I locked up and went back to the monitor. The man hadn't moved an inch, still smiling, still staring. 3 minutes later, he shifted. Without breaking eye contact with the camera, he walked sideways out of the frame into the far corner where the light didn't reach. The shadows swallowed him completely. That was worse than before. At least when I could see him, I knew where he was. Now, for all I knew, he could be standing just out of sight or halfway up the stairs. When my boss finally pulled in, I let him in right away. He had a shotgun in his hands, like he'd been expecting trouble. We went down together, The wooden steps groaned under our weight, and I couldn't help scanning the shadows with every step. But there was nothing. No man. No sign anyone had been there at all. Even the floor was undisturbed. No muddy footprints. No moved boxes. Just that damp, heavy air pressing in around us. After a while, my boss shrugged and said I'd probably been tired and imagining things. But I know what I saw. We went back upstairs, and he told me not to worry about it. I nodded, but the rest of the night I kept checking the monitor. I didn't see anything else, but the image of that smile wouldn't leave my head. I was 18 at the time, living in a small town where nothing really happened. At least, nothing you thought could get you killed. It was summer, I couldn't sleep, and around 4 in the morning, I decided to drive to the gas station for a snack. I figured I'd grab a hot dog, maybe some chips, and head back home. The gas station was one of those quiet, fluorescent lit ones, only one clerk inside, and a couple of pumps. I didn't see another car anywhere, which wasn't unusual at that hour. I went in, got my food, paid, and came back out. I got into my car, cranked the music low, and just sat there in the parking lot eating. It was warm enough to have my driver's window cracked open, maybe 4 inches. A nice breeze was coming through, and everything felt calm. That calm didn't last long. Out of nowhere, there was this sharp tapping on my window. I actually jumped hard enough that I almost dropped my food. My first instinct was to hit the lock button. I turned, and there's this guy standing right next to the door, leaning down slightly to look at me. I didn't recognize him. He looked maybe late 20s or early 30s, messy hair, dark hoodie. His face didn't have any kind of expression. That's what made me be wary. I rolled the window down just a little more, enough to hear him. "What's up?" I asked. He didn't hesitate. "Get out of the car, man." I blinked at him. "What?" "I'm taking this car," he said flatly. "Get out." That's when I saw it. He wasn't just tapping on the glass with his knuckles. He had a knife, and the blade was actually resting against the window as he spoke. That cold wave hit me instantly, the kind you feel in your chest when your brain realizes you're in real danger. My mind started racing. The lot was empty except for the clerk inside, who didn't seem to be looking our way. No other customers, just me and this guy. And he was standing a step back, almost casual, like he didn't want to look suspicious from inside. But I could see his eyes moving, checking the store, checking me, scanning the area. Every instinct I had was screaming, "Do not get out of this car." If I opened that door, there was nothing stopping him from stabbing me right there. I forced myself to sound calm. "All right, man, just give me a second." I moved my right hand toward the seatbelt latch like I was about to undo it. At the same time, I slid my left hand toward the window controls. It took him a second to notice what I was doing. Then I hit the switch and the window started rolling up. That's when he tried to jab the knife through the gap. The blade didn't make it inside, but it scraped across the glass, leaving this ugly, squealing line. He yanked on the door handle hard, then again. I threw the car in reverse. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it over the music. He started yelling just this string of words I barely processed and waving the knife around. I backed out fast, and he actually jogged after me for a few steps, but then he stopped. As I pulled onto the street, I glanced toward the gas station window. The clerk was on the phone watching me leave. I flipped the guy off out of sheer adrenaline and took off toward home. I didn't stop until I was parked in my driveway. My hands were shaking so badly, it took me a few tries to pull my phone out and call the police. An officer came to take my statement. He told me they'd already gotten a call from the gas station about the same guy earlier that night, but he'd taken off before they arrived. With both of our descriptions, they had a good idea of who it was, but I never heard anything else after that. For weeks, I kept replaying it in my head, how fast it happened, how easily it could have gone wrong if I'd panicked or gotten out. I'd never really thought about how vulnerable you are sitting in a parked car, even with the doors locked. That was 7 years ago, and I still don't like stopping at gas stations late at night, especially if there aren't other people around. I grew up in a small town, about 6,000 people. Nights there were so quiet you could hear your own footsteps echo off empty houses. My family often took long walks after dark, and we almost never saw anyone else out. We always felt safe. My parents still drilled the "don't talk to strangers" thing into me. I'm short, and at 16 or 17 I looked even younger. They didn't want me wandering into situations I couldn't handle. But back in that town, those warnings felt more like tradition than necessity. Then we moved. Only a few miles away, but to a much bigger town. More traffic, more people, and according to everyone we met, a place with a bad reputation. "Don't go out alone at night," people would say. "This isn't your old neighborhood." I believed them in theory, but nothing had happened yet. That changed one night. It was around 10:30 p.m. My mom's boyfriend had been dealing with a bad stomachache for hours. He finally asked for Tums. My mom's car was dead in the driveway, so she asked me to take mine. The gas station was less than 5 minutes away. I didn't mind. It was late, but I figured I'd be there and back quickly. The streets were almost completely empty. Streetlights hummed, casting dull yellow halos over the pavement. I passed a few parked cars, but didn't see a single person moving. I pulled into the gas station lot and aimed for a spot close to the entrance. That's when I noticed him, a guy in a dark hoodie standing just off to the side of the front doors. He had one hand up, blocking his eyes from my headlights like they were blinding him. That immediately put me on edge. My headlights are terrible. Even with the brights on, they barely light the road. I slowed down, keeping him in my peripheral vision. He didn't move. I parked, grabbed my keys, and made sure to lock the door before getting out. I didn't look directly at him, just walked quickly toward the entrance. Inside, the place felt dead. No one behind the counter, no customers. The hum of the refrigerators was the only sound. I went straight to the medicine aisle. No Tums, not even a knockoff brand. I scanned the shelves twice, but didn't linger. My skin was crawling. I wanted to leave. Pushing open the door, I froze for half a second. The guy was gone. But there was now a car parked tight next to mine. Close enough, I'd have to squeeze between them to get in. That car hadn't been there before. I slowed my walk for a second, trying to glance casually around the lot. No movement, no sound except the faint buzz from the store's sign. My heartbeat started picking up. A sick, instinctive feeling hit me. I walked faster, eyes scanning without turning my head too much. My truck's old, it has manual locks, and I sit far enough forward that locking the door behind me isn't automatic. But this time, I did it the second I sat down. Slammed the door, hit the lock. Not even a heartbeat later, he appeared. He came from behind the car next to mine, moving fast like he'd been crouched down waiting for me. He was at my door instantly, yanking the handle hard enough to shake the truck. Then came the pounding, his fists slamming into the glass again and again. His mouth was moving fast, shouting for me to open up and let him in, mixed with other words I couldn't make out through the glass. I didn't think. I turned the key, the engine roared, and I floored it. Tires squealed as I shot out of the lot, the figure shrinking in my mirror. Halfway down the road, my hands were shaking so badly I could barely keep hold of the wheel. I didn't slow down until I was nearly across town. I went to another gas station, bought the Tums, and drove straight home. I didn't tell my mom's boyfriend the full story until the next morning. I needed time to process how close I'd come to God knows what. Now, I don't go anywhere alone at night. Not gas stations, not grocery stores, nowhere. Because I keep thinking about that exact second. If I hadn't locked my door right then, he would have been inside before I could even react.